Hi, it's Mana from Bizmind again. Uh, this time, the purpose of this video is to clarify the ways of using Bizmind in a corporate setting and, and just clarifying some of the benefits and best practices that we have encountered. First of all, Bizmind provides you with a dynamic uh, sort of like a recruiting criteria. I mean, we do have a full-fledged work personality assessment that we haven't posted in there yet, as we sort of like try to keep the input-output discrepancy in a favorable form. But of course, I mean, you can pick up the data and just see or have a hunch that our top performance are drivers or visionaries or diplomats or analysts or what is the winning combination. You can run a statistical criteria, validity studies accordingly, or just use the hunch. Of course, the persuasion methods are also an area of interest. But I would say that the idea of a dynamic recruiting criteria is that you have a very vivid understanding on what that person really has to do. So of course, it's a question of demand and supply and stuff like that. But you have a much better understanding of what you're really looking for and where are the sort of like unpolished diamonds, if you will. Number two, onboarding and or induction of a newcomer. That is tied up to the recruiting, of course, but it is uh, quite interesting that there's been studies that have revealed that it takes approximately 10 months for a newcomer to break even when we talk about a successful recruitment endeavor. So 10 months, and then you're in a break even situation, and the most costly part of it is the superior's time investment, because that is always away from something else. So onboarding a professional into a white collar job is really, you know, a tough one really. And there are no guarantees. I mean, after a year, that person can go to competition because he gets like $100 more a month. So that is something that ought to be done in a much more efficient and effective manner. And Bizmind can help tremendously in that. I mean, of course, employer image is a force to be reckoned with as well. I mean, the young people these days in the contemporary work life, they don't use any apps, yet they play Angry Birds or Clash of Clans while commuting. So if you want to be a cutting edge employer, you might want to look at Bizmind as well. Number three, coaching slash training with no time investment. Of course, I mean, we sometimes punch our competition below the belt by saying that, whenever an external sales coach starts lecturing on the topic of obstacle of sales, it is the very lecture which is the obstacle of sales. And, uh, Bizmind is really addressing that in a fantastic manner. I mean, there practically no time investment necessary, and you can use the spare time here and there for Bizmind usage. So it's really on the job learning, with a purpose and with a cutting edge tool. For run of the mill management or leadership, the what I'm referring to is just the basic PDDs. It is definitely worthwhile to go over, for instance, the strength and development areas, the big pictures, goals and decision making, selling style, motivation, working styles, and teamwork. I mean, those are the sort of like the big stones in the bucket that are not really like to or bound to change over a period of time. So those ought to be addressed in the PDDs and the weekly meetings. I mean, you get your tips of the day, and you we would like to think that our tips sort of like bring a little bit of electricity or new insight into weekly meetings or sales meetings or whatever you want to call them. But of course, I mean, you can look into the tips and really sort of like have your subordinates or the sales pros make commitments to utilize some of the new tricks whenever an opportunity emerges. Albert Einstein said that one definition of insanity is always doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Okay, now moving into point number 5. I'm sorry, the mutual visits. This you can perceive Bizmind as an enhancer or a substitute for mutual visits. So if I was to just go through the basic procedure of how to like gather data. Now this was before a meeting. Now we're out of the meeting, and it'll pick up on what did I do. If just left to seller's own devices. For instance, this last one, communicated added value as compared to created added value, that is prone to inaccurate estimates if it's just left to the customers, the user's own self-evaluation. So especially if you're looking for sort of like inter-rater reliability, so that person A is consistent with person B, who's consistent with person C across your sales force, it would be very beneficial to utilize the mutual visits when the superior, for instance, tags along, and really discuss these things. That I think that you played on the conviction. I think that you used the references. I think that the give and take element was there, especially when the meetings peaks. What are the persuasion methods used? And of course, when evaluating your customers as well. So this idea of whether it's a superior or a product manager or someone else, have someone tag along, or even an external consultant for that sake, to calibrate the mutual understanding of what are these tiny little nuances when it comes to customers or persuasion methods. Number 6, data gathering for corporate purposes across various functions. Well, the CRM integration is kind of already there. We're gonna expand on that and provide a sort of like a superior's dashboard as well. But perhaps we have to also plug or do the ERP integration, so that whenever a customer is met by a sales professional, that information is instantly pushed into the bloodstream of the corporation, and for instance R&D and all the other functions get that information, so that it's not in a silo, or it's not a separate entity. That the data strategy is really all inclusive. Number 7 is really what we call psychological reverse sales funnel. So it is really the idea that it works both on the corporate level and on an individual level. That what are the ideal persuasion methods in the early sales funnel, mid sales funnel, and in the late sales funnel, and what are you resorting to? Like this example is just kind of a illustration that what did I use as my first persuasion method, what is the second one, what is the third, and you can benchmark it sort of like to your own experiences, your own best outings, your team's outings, or just across various functions. But this idea of having like a blue chips internal pool of reference, is definitely worthwhile. And this is really the bench learning as it should be. Number 8 is just resorting to, number 8, converting every ATOM meeting into digital form. What I'm talking about here is that, in contemporary business, one of the tricky parts is that customers are met both in the real world, the ATOM world, and in the digital format. So it's really hard to combine the print marketing and the digital marketing and the encounters or the various methods that customers can be in touch with you. So by using Bizmind, all customer meetings are in the digital form. And we are only in the very early stages of that kind of thinking, but it's definitely a worthwhile. I mean, it has to go that way anyways. And number 9, addressing of Salesforce quality. Well, people usually say that there are 3 major things when you're running a Salesforce. There's the quantity, how many meetings, how many bids, how many offers, whatever, how many deals, and all that. And it's really easy to manage those. And of course, I mean, the quantity really defines the sort of like how can I say it? I mean, you know, it sets the frame where anything else can take place. And of course, to whom to sell is a major point as well. And then there's the quality, and quality is really the trickiest part to address. But with Bizmind, that is really something that we can address. And of course, by gathering data, you know, you can also address to whom to sell as well. I mean, everyone knows the 80-20 rule, but there's a following to the 80-20 rule, which is the 80-20-30 rule, which really says that, or what it stands for is that by allocating 30% of your resources into non-profitable customers, you compromise 50 or lose 50% of your margins. So that is one thing that has to be addressed. But perhaps I should clarify this number 7 point as well. I mean, what it's really all about is that, you know, to whom to contact, which persuasion methods to use, or even whether to meet face to face or via Skype. It is. I mean, Skype is coming along, and all kinds of digital or video conferences are emerging all the time, and I think it's quite reasonable to assume that perhaps there are there's bound to be different persuasion methods or criteria in that kind of a setting. But this is just a rough walkthrough of how to use Bizmind. Bizmind has many faces. There are many ways of using it, and you know, make it your own. Make it your own, and you know, if it's a stab in the dark, you know, you can try one and then move into another, and yeah, just give it a go. Thank you.